We are live. How about that? Hot dog.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Sam Shukavich, and with me, as always, is my father, David Shukavich, the president of and founder of Carolina Retirement Planners. And with us, as always, is the incomparable Ms. Amy Dresky, who runs the show behind the scenes, putting everything together on the interwebs.
Hi.
Making it all come to you each week at 4:30
Yeah,
on
I have a new
Thursday.
view
And
as
be duly
promised.
recorded
I like this view, Amy.
on our webpage and on various places out there on the web.
My office is right through that wall.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm coming
I
for
like
you.
it. I like the art behind you.
That's a Brian Stacy piece. I don't know if anybody knows about it. You would know, but I don't know if anybody else knows. So,
We've
yeah.
talked about it before, but I like it. I don't normally get a look at it.
Oh yeah, there it is. Okay, I gotta go to work. Okay, bye. Bye.
But welcome everyone to this one where we're going to talk about inflation and maybe a little some of its innards, but not too much. But also, some spins that I have on it and some observations that I found interesting as well. But a sort of fun explanation. I hope you'll enjoy it. But we always like to start with some other fun stuff, right, Sam? What are the things we always talk about at 4:30?
We'd like to talk about what day it is. Every day of the year is some kind of national something or other day, and today is what is it today, Amy?
Today is National Invite an Alien to Live with You Day.
Oh.
And we were talking about this before we signed on, and it was a hard choice. It was a difficult choice, but I think Amy, who is your favorite alien? Who would you invite to live with you?
If I was going to invite any alien, which I probably wouldn't do, but if I did, I would invite those little yip yips from Sesame Street. They're like yip 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 yip. And they're always like learning new things because they seem non-offensive, and I don't know if they'd harm me. They seem pretty nice. So I feel like they'd be okay. Yeah. How about you? What would you guys? Who would you do?
Oh, well, you segued into mine.
Yeah.
I would invite Doctor Who.
I like Doctor Who.
Yeah, we would. I mean, we wouldn't spend a lot of time at home.
No.
We would ideally be going on a lot of very interesting adventures.
Yeah, Doctor Who's a good one.
I would not invite ET. I know we had a lot of people email in and say they would invite ET and their favorite alien was ET. But as a child, that movie came out, and something about that alien, I did
stuck his little head out.
I did not find any affinity.
It freaked her out, something fierce.
Yeah, I was like,
gonna make you
go home.
Yeah,
go home as soon as you can. I did not like that movie at all.
For me, it could be the guy from Mork and Mindy, who was the comedian that played that.
Robin Williams.
Yeah, Robin Williams. Yeah. But I'm really probably leaning more towards Worf, the Klingon on Star Trek. So
okay, so I didn't watch Star Trek. Was he nice? Was he a nice guy? I don't know.
Was he? Well, he was a good Klingon. Had come over to our side and
he would protect the house. It would be
and safe. He did all kinds of Tai Chi. He would be doing these Tai Chi exercises. Okay. But Klingons you got to appreciate them. They were unstoppable. I was like, it's a man's man alien, so
I'm going for the nice little cute ones, and I like everybody's thinking here.
No little cute aliens. Now I'm going back to work.
Yeah. I was a big fan of like John Lithgow and his family in Rock from the Sun. That was, I remember growing up, we used to watch that show. A lot of good TV aliens.
Yeah.
I don't know any in real life yet.
Do you know what I found out today?
What?
I found out that Mr. Ed, the talking horse, was possibly an alien. Did anybody know that?
Oh.
I know, right? Mind blowing.
Well, it makes sense.
Yeah, I was not aware of that.
Wonder what it ate. Well, anyway, we have always like to say hi to folks that have joined us. We have Bill here, and Teresa Teresa, our regular, um, Amy's mother.
I know that lady. That's my mom.
Yeah. Eric has joined us. He says, good afternoon from Oak Island. And Miranda, it's good to see you as usual. Bruce, too. Um, and
Debbie and Jean are here. Hi, y'all.
yep. And Fernando, good to see you. Good to see you.
Ooh,
And,
our very own Jameson. He said one, Marvin the Martian. I forgot about him. I love that guy. That is a good one. Yeah.
Iconic. That's an excellent alien.
yeah, there were some good aliens, and there were some really scary ones, you know. What was the one that came out of the lady's belly? What was that one?
Those
That's just alien. Yeah.
The alien, yeah.
That guy's no bueno. No, I don't like that guy.
So no, none of that, none of that. And Skip and Jay and Carter, it's good to see you all too, or hear you all too.
Mhm.
And
Oh, my mom likes Jeff Bridges and Starman. Forgot about that too. That is a good one. So many.
yeah, but we may want to plunge in and start on this. So if we run out of, we don't want to run out of time. If we end early, we can say hi to more folks. You know, I suspect some of you may be interested in today's topic, and of course, as we said, today's topic is inflation. You know, and boy, it sure is on everybody's mind because, you know, what was it, 9.1% or all this the past month, and I decided to delve into it some, not too much and not too depressing, hopefully, and actually find some positive things that may occur. But let's talk about inflation. One is I got this. This is from May. It's a little bit older, but it ranks the inflation by category, and you can see the number.
2022.
Yeah, it is the increase in prices from May of 2021 to May of 2022. Maybe get a better color. And gasoline was leading the cost at about, it went up by about 50%. Airfare close behind at about 37, 38%. Natural gas.
We just booked some flights to a conference, and it was, whew, we booked them out for 3 or 4 months out, and they are insanely expensive.
Hotels, 22%. Used cars. We've all been talking about how hard it is to get cars. Food has gone up by about 10%, and that's affected just about everything. Back then, all items was about 8.6. It's a little higher than that now. Housing was up 5%. Interestingly enough, though, televisions have actually gone down in price by about 10%. So televisions are cheaper now than they were a year ago. And I tell you, I'm going to come back kind of at the end of the data and the stuff, and I'm going to tell you an interesting take on what a retiree can do to take advantage, to minimize the effect of this on them. And I hope it goes over. So let's start by if we want to go to inflation and figure out what really causes inflation. One place to go is this gentleman here. This is Milton Friedman. Milton Friedman was a very well-known economist back, especially in the last century. And I'm betting that many people, many of you listening today, if you took, introductory economics in college, that you would have been using Milton Friedman's textbook. His textbook was used by everybody. I asked my wife, "Did you use that in college?" And she said, "Well, David, I was in honors in high school. I used his textbook in high school." So there you go. I have a hire a woman so smart, maybe smarter than me. So anyway, so Milton Friedman, this is him winning the Nobel Prize in Economics in 1976. And this is a quote for him that that he has on heritage.org. And he said, when it comes to inflation, it is always and everywhere a monetary phenomenon. It's always and everywhere a result of too much money, of a more rapid increase in the quantity of money than an output. So we got too much money chasing too few goods. Moreover, and this is the interesting part, moreover, in the modern era, the important next step is to recognize that today governments control the quantity of money, so that as a result, inflation in the United States is made in Washington and nowhere else. Well, an interesting take on it that, whoa, we have caused the inflation. And I will say to a great extent that's true, but not totally. And we'll look at that as well and what other things have contributed to the inflation. But he's saying it's our own fault. And it goes back to a thing called M2. It's like money to, it's a measure basically of all the cash and savings and checkings and spendable money in the country. They got a bunch, I won't bore you with all the fine details, but basically, if you've got checking and savings and CDs and things like that, it all contributes to M2. And so it's how much money the country has. Now, this is from the, I think it's the Federal Reserve, St. Louis, I believe, always puts out great graphs. And this from 1960 to now, it is the amount of money in the system, this M2. And you can see that for years, it kind of felt a nice smooth line. And whoa, starting in 2020, we had this big gap where the amount of money jumped up a whole bunch. Now, Sam, what do you think happened in 2020 to that increase that money supply so much? You got to take the mute off. It will be able to hear you better.
Sorry.
I know your dog was barking.
We put some money into the economy. We had some stimulus payments.
And why do we have a stimulus payment?
Because of a global pandemic.
Yeah, remember COVID hit and man, everything shut down. And where did we get that money?
It looks to me like we printed it. Huh?
Yeah, we pretty much printed trillions of dollars and created this huge gap very suddenly that increased the amount of money. And Milton Friedman says, if you got too much money chasing too few goods, another way to look at this, if you like graphs like engineers like me do, this is not the amount of money, this is the growth in money. And it's from 1960, you can see the growth was pretty constant at 5 to 10% a year. And in 2020, it jumped up to 25%. So this is kind of the growth in money. We started just adding more money, a whole bunch more to the system. And this is right now when COVID kind of subsided, all of a sudden people had all this money and they went out and spent it on restaurants and travel and TVs and all kinds of stuff. So all of a sudden we had a lot of money out there chasing goods, and we had a demand that was somewhat stifled. And also to some extent, those goods weren't there because remember all those boats were backed up at the ports and we weren't getting the goods over and people wanted them, so they'd pay more for the few they could get. That drove it up. And what we have to do here is we have to go in and we have to figure out a way to see if I can get it. We have to figure out a way to get this money back down to be back where it should be. We got to get the money out of the system. And that is hard to do We did some of that back in 1980. Remember when we had Volcker and all increased interest rates did a number of things. What I've read here is there's not a lot of things we could do. One is we could go to the banks and say, hey, instead of you lending money out to people, we'll pay you for interest on that money and get it out of the system, like $120 billion a year in interest to take it out. And us writing another $120 billion check to make banks to not lend money is one possibility. One is we can require the banks to increase their reserve rate. So if you lend out $100,000, you got to have $100 million, you got to have $10 million in your accounts to kind of cover the debts. It's that buffer. And they're doing that now, but that's another way to get the money from going out into the system. The other way to do it, we almost could have done in April. Apparently this April, the country actually had a budget surplus. I didn't realize it until I was researching this, but in April, we brought in more taxes than we had spending. And when we have a profit, what we can basically do is let the bonds expire and then that money disappears essentially. That's probably not going to happen, that we're going to have a budget surplus. Only 4 years in my lifetime that I remember us having a budget surplus. So, it is a challenge to get the money out. But that is not the only thing causing our problems here. And I'm going to talk about some other things that will probably go away that offer hope. But before I do, I want you to humor me a bit. This is Milton Friedman talking. It was September of 1977, and it was at Cornell. And he was giving a talk on is capitalism humane? Boy,
Hey, is that you? Do I see you back there?
I am in that crowd. You can probably see me back here because I was sitting there in the audience. And I wanted to mention it because, Friedman is a well-known, Nobel Prize winning person. And he got up there to talk. Now, when you're giving a talk, is capitalism humane, to a bunch of college students in the 70s, there's a lot of them gunning for you. They think you're all wet and, we should not, there's no way capitalism can be humane and all kinds of things. And when his talk ended, he took questions. Now, they had guys ready to man the mics and be very careful that they didn't overdo it. He said, no. I'll handle it. He took a microphone, he sat on a little stool, and he picked them and answered their questions. And he held control of the crowd and just answered them very well. I said, no, you're wrong. I've been to, they were talking about South America. I've been there. I've seen it. I've talked to the people. Here's the reality. The guy had not only an intelligence, but a personality that few have. And it was just really neat to have had a chance to see that. I remember it to this day, and I thought I'd just mention that when I have a chance here. And I went and found there's a whole video of his talk at Cornell. You can go listen to the hour-long talk and the jokes he told. I was going to tell some of the jokes, but I won't. We probably don't have time. So I can't tell him like he tells them. So anyway, that's a little bit on Friedman. I want to talk next about gasoline. Sam, do you recall which segment of the market had the highest inflation rate?
Gasoline.
Gasoline,
Yeah.
So let's think about that a little bit, because I learned a lot over time in my years paying for gas on what causes gas. Now, this is a graph from 1972 to 2016. In today's dollars, this is the price of gas. And boy, it's got a lot of ups and downs. This was the OPEC oil embargo when it went up here. Many of you probably, like me, remember when there were odd days you could fill and even days you could fill, and could you drive on Sunday? And we were doing all this to conserve it. This is the Iran-Iraq war. It went from 250 to over to 375 a gallon for when that war occurred. This is Iraq invades Kuwait, but there's another one that occurred right here that I'm going to talk about as well. Um, uh, and you can see these big swings. I got a better color here. These big swings in up and down in gas. I'll tell you one thing I observed back here in the last 20 years is, I'll tell you, when we've had an election year, miraculously, that fall, the gas plummets to a real low. And as soon as the election is over, it goes back up. Huh. Anyway, that's another one to think. There are a lot of things that drive the price of gas. Here is the price from 1918. Again, you can see lots of ups and downs over the years. So we know that if gas gets high, it's probably going to get back down. What causes gas to go up? Well, one of my favorite get on a soapbox things to talk about is March of '89. It was the Exxon Valdez. The Exxon Valdez was an Exxon tanker coming from Alaska, and it hit. There was some debate whether the captain was drunk, but it actually ran aground on the Bligh Reef. This is Captain Bligh, by the way, who
I
the
was
reef
I was
named
wondering why you had that picture on there. I was like, well, that certainly couldn't have been the captain in 1989.
No, that was Captain Bligh. Hey,
I was
what
wondering the
was
same
Captain
thing, like,
Bligh's? What was the name of Captain Bligh's ship?
I don't know. Obviously, I'm confused.
Amy,
because
do you
I
know
thought
who
he could have
Captain
been
Bligh was? Someone could type it in real quick and tell. Captain Bligh had the Bounty. Remember Mutiny on the Bounty? That was Captain Bligh. The reef was named after him. The thing that bugs me is that hit the reef on March 24th. Within a couple of days, gas prices had gone up 10%. They were around $1 then. They went up 10% or more. And that ship would not have arrived at the port. And it's one ship out of hundreds. And you think if Exxon was good, because they had really bad control. Wall Street Journal wrote a whole article on how bad they were. You think they could at least say, well, look, we're not going to raise prices. We're going to eat this. We're going to be a good. Gas prices went through the roof. Exxon and all the other oil companies made a fortune. One reason we see gas going so high now is when something happens somewhere in the world, even though the United States has lots of capacity and everything else, the price goes up and they make tons of money. This year, the same way. So the reason we're high now is several things. One, in 2020, COVID hit, they cut production because nobody was using gas, driving, flying. If you remember, about a little over a year ago, the Colonial Pipeline, the biggest pipeline in the country, was hacked. Some terrorists went in and hacked it, shut it down for like 6 days. Do you remember there was like a period where you couldn't get gas? You were trying to find someone that still had gas, and that drove prices up. We had a breach and spill in another pipeline in October. Russia decided it wanted to own Ukraine earlier this year. That drove it up. And OPEC was supposed to increase output. They haven't done it, largely because Libya and Nigeria have all kinds of. So this is some of the things that are driving up. It's got nothing to do with the money supply. It's a whole different thing. And this, for instance, is this is the pipeline. No, here's the pipeline thing. Here's Ukraine. You can kind of see the effects on this. So this will come back down. This is not due to money supply. This is due to a shortage of oil that will work itself out. And like it always has, it will come back down. Airplanes, same way Sam just mentioned, we're paying through the nose to fly to, where are we going anyway? Where is that conference?
Dallas.
Dallas, we're going to Dallas. So you probably love to get on planes and fly. If you look at the history of prices, domestic airfare prices, you just see all these peaks. We're used to seeing it spike up and come back down. This is another case. Much of it is due to the fact that gas prices are high and their price is often tied to gas prices. So the airlines will come back down too as well. the whole world of food is a little more complicated. I just looked for milk prices over the last, I don't know, 10 years or so. And even here, you can see where prices went from whatever, a carton, or I think it's a bulk price. It went from about $16, $17 up to, from 26 down to 16, back up and down. There's lots of fluctuations here. So some of the food prices will come back down as well. They're more of a supply problem than too much money chasing it. And one good piece of news, maybe not for the retirees here, but for people that are working, this is the price indexes versus hourly earnings. And since January 1st of 2020, the salaries have gone up 14%. Inflation was up 12.7. So salaries are kind of keeping ahead of inflation. Now, it doesn't help so well if you're retired, but it is the case here. But what do you do if you're retired? So here is my take. Here is my take on it. Looking at this, you know, one thing you can do is say, look, I'm not going to travel a lot. I'm going to kind of stay at home. I'm not going to take a lot of road trips in my car, so I get rid of that one. And I'm not going to get on an airplane regularly, so, you know, and fly somewhere, so I'm going to get rid of that one. If I'm not flying somewhere and going somewhere, I don't have to pay the motel's fee as well. If I make my car last, I don't have to pay for the cars. So I'm able to, by adjusting my lifestyle, eliminate many of the things that are driving us to such heights. So what do I do? Well, the answer is obvious. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go out, I'm going to buy a really good TV, and since I'm depressed, I'm going to sit at home and I'm going to binge watch I Love Lucy and Gilligan's Island, so I know I'll feel good at the end of the day. That's my solution. So I hope this was some help, you know, to you, some added perspective. If we went into the real deep part, oh God, you can go forever and no one agrees. By the way, if you want to get more concrete, we have a free report that you can get. It's called Inflation in Your Retirement. It has parts of it like, what can I do to prepare for inflation in my retirement plan? More details than we can give here in a quick happy half hour. And you can get, how do they get this, Amy? How do they get this?
They need to just send an email to us at info@carolinarp.com. I will put that in the comments.
Also, you know, many of you, especially clients, know they can always call and ask. But if you're just a visitor and you have a question, you say, boy, I wish there was something you could answer for me. If you call the office, well, that's my cell number. I'm not with it here today, am I? My office number, you can call that too, but my office number is 815-3100. I need to proof this better. And we'll book a call, or you can go to carolina15.com and book a 15-minute right on the web. If there's something that you would like to talk about, and you can get one of these, we'll even print one out and mail it to you at the house, so you don't have to try to read it on your cell phone. And a good little piece to know. So, okay, well, I think that concludes our little piece on inflation. What do we always do at the end, Sam?
We do our wine drawing. All right. So if this is your first time being here with us, each week we raffle off 2 bottles of wine delivered directly to your door from Fermental Bottle Shop. And to get your name here in my jar, all you have to do is, if you are a member of Facebook, you just click. Each week we'll have a Facebook event and you click that you are going to it. And if you're on our email listserv, you just respond to the email that we send out each week, letting you know what our topic is. And if you share either one of them with a friend, we'll give you an additional entry into the drawing.
I'm gonna drum roll.
All right. So our winner this week of 2 bottles of wine delivered directly to your door is Deb and Rob P.
Deb and Rob, well,
Woo,
congratulations.
congratulations.
Amy will call you and figure out what's the right
Yes.
wine for you.
Yes. It's actually funny when there's somebody that hasn't been through or won before, and I go through the questions, because we still have people that have never won. And in the beginning, they're like, what do these questions have to do with wine? And then at the end, I explain it. They're like, oh, that's so great. Yeah.
She does a good job.
Yeah.
And a
and
reminder, you can watch this and what number is this now?
103. You know what that means for next week, right?
Next week is 2 solid years of presentations. So
Yeah.
if you can watch this on YouTube, our YouTube channel, or go to Carolina Retirement Planners under events, they're all listed. You can watch them, the reruns, if you will, and tell your friends. A lot of good stuff in there. We've covered everything from Bitcoin to IRAs to, just all kinds of stuff. And so,
Yeah.
and an attorney shows up now and then, and boy, is he popular. You can learn a whole lot about wills and trusts you never knew about. So
I know we've talked about bringing on a mortgage guy too, and bringing in some other new people. So I think that we should.
And a health insurance guy.
Health insurance guy, and some new things. So yeah, expanding, making it better. So 2 years next week. Ooh, I'm excited.
Tell your friends, be here next Thursday, 4:30, and we will see you then.
Still didn't finish a beer. One day I'll do it.
Yeah. Cheers,
Bye,
everybody.
Cheers. Take care. Have a wonderful
Bye-bye.
weekend. Stay cool. Don't overheat. Drink lots of
Yep.
water. Bye.